Guys,
It's been a minute.
it's been we took a slight break because we
did a thing.
That. So we are doing a quick little update episode. This one's not going to be the full length that we usually go for, and it's just us right now and our new child. Are we giving her name out to the public?
I posted on my Instagram.
All right. I mean, we did post on our social as well. This is Juniper Joy Sahagan, and so she is our newest thing we made, and she will soon be a maker like us. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah.
My beanie or my eyeglasses look crooked. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just feeling weird.
Say she'll be whatever she wants to be.
She'll be whatever she wants to be. But guys, thanks for joining us on this episode of Always Making. We are a little tired. We are
a lot tired.
Figuring this all out. We are trying to get ourselves back into our routines of making. We have a few guests lined up for some of the next couple episodes. Well, future episodes. As they go on, the podcast is still going to be running on our regular schedule. We're going to try at least the best we can with this.
Yep.
But some of the updates, we are 11 episodes in. This is great. We've had 8 guests on our show now from different shows we've met, different makers we've met. And there has been a continued theme, I would probably say, that a lot of them kind of came across of just that, like,
a couple themes I think that have cropped up naturally through the interviews with other.
I think the biggest one
makers.
And what we're discovering is community and art community and what it grows. And I really want to get into kind of the nitty gritty of it. I mean, I don't think we'll solve world art community here on this podcast, but what were some of the key takeaways that you have taken and kind of grown from what we've heard from all of our guests we've had so far?
Yeah, I definitely think community was one that we heard pop up a lot, whether it was, finding community, creating community, or, with other makers, or even just finding like-minded people in your audience as an artist and as a maker. Definitely, finding other people who have similar mindsets to you, who have similar drives, who have similar interests, passions, whatever it may be, and really leaning into that, because that's what makes a community, I think, for a lot of people. Like I said, whether it's other artists and makers or, or other people that are in your audience. So I think community was also, was definitely a big one. And then the other one I think that we heard a lot was, when we'd ask people for their advice for other people who are looking to maybe get into making or start a business or, whatever it may be, I think the big thing that we heard was just do it.
Yeah.
Not to steal from Nike.
yeah, seriously.
Right?
We're not taking that slogan or anything. It's just, it is.
Take that first step, just leap into it. It doesn't have to be perfect conditions. It doesn't have to be, the perfect tools or materials. Timing doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing has to be exactly right. Just start, and then it will go from there naturally.
Yeah, and that is the hardest thing, but I think the most fulfilling thing as an artist that you can do is start somewhere. That is the key thing. And I mean, it goes back to where we all started with all of this going on. We're going to be coming up on 19 years together doing all the stuff, is that it is making, and it is just hey, it's scary. It's a thought, starting this podcast for you guys. This is another thing. It's we just had to do it because we meet so many cool people and we want to share those with you. Starting drawing in Procreate, I just needed to do it. I wasn't trying to prove anything to anybody with it. I just needed to do it. You sewing, just do it. And I don't think we'd ever started any of our we started this maker journey with the intention of starting our own business per se to sell the way we're selling now. I know you've had the Etsy stores. I know you've had the different stuff that we've gone through, but I think when you started sewing, it wasn't for the intention of I'm going to make these cosplay hoods and sell your costumes that you made for conventions and stuff like that was not to like become rich off of
Yeah, no,
people
my goal is never to
buying
be
your
like a
stuff.
famous cosplayer
Yeah,
or costume designer or
No, that was not it. And so where was that, I guess, confidence that we had to just do it? Like, have we, like,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know if we've expressed that enough here.
I don't think I had any confidence. That's the thing is I actually, I'm going to get teary, so emotional still. I have in my sewing room, I have a fortune cookie from, I don't even know how many years ago, but it said something along the lines of having my own creative business. And I put it in my pocket that day. I mean, this was like I was in high school, I think, years ago, before I ever even really let myself consciously have the dream of like running my own creative business. But I kept it in my pocket and then I tucked it away in a box and I kept it for years and years and years. When we moved here, it was the first thing I put up in my sewing space because it's something I've always wanted to do and something that I never gave myself permission to even have as a dream. So I say like zero confidence because I've had multiple Etsy shops and it's always been on the side. It's always been like, yeah, this is just something I do for fun. This is just something that's on the side, not something that I'm gonna turn into a career. Don't you cry and then I cry. So having the opportunity after we moved here and after, COVID hit and I was in between jobs again, in between schools, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And it was like, just give it a shot. Like, if it doesn't work out, then I'll start putting out more applications. I'll find another job. Like, it's fine. But just really giving myself the permission to try running a business full time and just see where it goes. And the fact that it's like here.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy thought to be at this point, and we're tired, guys. That's
and I'm
maybe this wasn't the best idea to record, but we wanted to get another episode out for you guys with that. But it's real. It is a real thing. It is a real passion. It is the idea of being able to create for our livelihoods is huge, and it is one of those things that like we now have a thing to kind of figure out besides the maker thing. Like I was down here while Christy was upstairs with the kid, and I'm trying to like, okay, we've got a show coming up in a couple weeks that I'm going to attend by myself. Christy will stay back with the kid and try to find this balance. And eventually, once the kid's a little older, we'll be able to find the balance of making it all work. And we have fellow makers that you've had here on the shows with us that have their kids that have found that balance figured out. It's all new to us. We're trying to figure that all out. And as it goes, it's 3 weeks now. Like,
yeah, she's only 3 weeks old.
So,
which when you think about it, it's pretty crazy that we've already been like I filled an order the other day.
Yeah,
and
then
the shop is back open.
Well, that's where it comes down to. Like, I didn't necessarily think I was going to be drawing while we were during pregnancy, but it was like I found that downtime to still be creative, and it's one of the newest pieces, and I'll go into that more. I think in a social story, like as we kind of get it out there and put it out there, but. There's a new thing that we are going to, I say it with all, like, I don't know, joking aside, but it is real. Our life is over as we knew it. Like, this is the way I'm processing this in my head because
pre-baby, post-baby.
Yeah, it is one of those like, hey, all my art will change. All of our creative process will change. How we handle shows, how we handle orders, will change. And everything we knew before is completely out the door, and we're adapting to a whole new world with it. And so that is the I guess the way my brain processes this whole thing that we have now taken on. But the inspiring thing is having all the guests that we've had on the show talk about their journeys. Same thing. Kids, no kids, how their future will be, where it's not, how they just did it. And they're learning on their process just as much as we are with all of this. It is inspiring to see those other guests. And it was very cool to take a break from doing the shows every other week and actually just go attend a show like we were doing 3 years ago,
Uh-huh.
like just attend a show and see artists. But what was so different about it is we knew everybody there, and like I'm not saying we weren't fanboying like or like in awe of everyone's piece, but it was like, oh hey, it was a different approach that we took with
It
everybody.
felt very different.
And so it was, again, coming back to finding that community and growing with it and seeing where it goes from that point. It's been very rewarding in that sense. I mean,
It felt very much like we were stepping into our community. You know, it was like, oh, hey, like we know these people at this table. We know these people at this table. I mean, it was so cool. So there was like, so we were at the SLC Punk Rock Flea Market, and this is the Halloween one, October. So it was right before, you know, we had this little nugget here. But it was so cool because at one of the tables, they recognized us before I recognized them, but they were like, oh my gosh, it's Steadfast Rebels. And we were like, wait, what? You know, it took me a minute to register. And I was like, oh my gosh. So this was a girl that I had met randomly, like on the street. I mean, she had seen, yeah. I was like leaving a doctor's appointment and literally like in the elevator, and she had seen the stickers on my water bottle and was like, oh, cool sticker. And I was like, oh, thanks. You know, I made it. You know, I actually have a business. And she was like, oh, that's so cool. And had talked about how she was into making things and had wanted to give markets a try. And I was like, well, you should reach out to the punk rock flea market. It sounds like you'd be a good fit from, you know, what she told me she was making. And then she was there, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is so wild to like just see that, like, from one conversation, not that like I inspired her or anything, you know, I'm not going to take credit, but like just from one conversation, she was there, and it was just, it was mind blowing. It was so cool.
It's very cool to see. Again, we're not influencers. We're not anything in that sense, but we have experience that we can share with people, and hopefully if they're looking to take the same path we are with their journey in a maker and be like stores, pop-up markets, whatever it is, that like you can take some of this, what we have like experienced, for the good or the bad part of it, and maybe not go. Like, I think that's one of the best parts I love is as we continue to meet these makers and fellow creators is, hey, did you do this show? Hey, how'd that go for you? Hey, what was going on? And it's this constant feedback. And we had Graveyard Witch on here, and one of the things I really took from like that whole conversation we had, it stuck with me, is that she wants to see other makers, if you're making something and it doesn't sell, but the person next to you sells, she's excited for you because she knows that's building the art community.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's a huge thing that I took from what she was talking about, because I know my art isn't for everybody. I know what we create, our t-shirts, our designs, our skate accessories. Not everyone skates. The amount of people that come into the shop and say, oh man, I used to skate back when I was young, or
that's so
I'm going to
cool,
break
but
my neck doing it.
I don't know how to skate.
And that's okay. Like at least you're in there and having a conversation and being part of this art community, because then I saw those same people walking around later in the show with someone else's art or someone else's product or handmade thing.
Yeah.
And they're supporting that art community, which is really big. And I just want to see it grow. That's like, be part of it and grow it.
Like, honestly, when one of us succeeds, all of us succeed, because that's one more person who's shopping local, who's shopping small, who's looking at, you know, a person who just made this in their apartment, in their basement, you know, whatever, and seeing value in it. And then they go out and hopefully share that with other people, and then it spreads from there. So, yeah. Yeah.
Updates for what we're working on right now. Like, what, I know this is making it a little difficult but what were some of the projects we might have not been able to cover in some of the shows in the past that you were working on?
Well, I think the big thing we're working on right now is trying to get more of our stuff that we have made for shows and put it up in the Etsy shop. So our shirts and prints and more of our stickers and things, make them available for sale in the Etsy shop. Because that is one thing. We do also get a lot of people who come to markets and maybe don't have the budget at the market or have other reasons, whatever, and ask about, you know, an online shop. And so we're like, oh yeah, we have an Etsy shop, but not all of our stuff that we have at markets is in the shop. So that's one thing we're working on for sure right now.
Yeah. One of the things, I do it every year now. This is the third year I've done it. If you follow my social media, you would have seen my Inktober challenge. And it's a great way to grow like my drawing skills, and there's a couple new pieces coming to the market. A lot of my stickers come from Inktober. I do it all in black and white, and then after the mad rush of drawing every day is over, I go back and like the ones that I really enjoy or really like kind of stuck with me, I start colorizing them, and then stickers. Maybe if timing goes right with everything, I'll get some new stickers in the shop before the next show. And then we've been getting into paper making. If you guys have been following us on our social media, got into a couple DIY recycled paper techniques. And so coolest thing I think that's coming from that is we do have some prints. I actually see them behind the camera over there of Inktober drawing, did a screen for it, screen printed them. Christy did some watercolor.
Onto our paper.
Yeah. And so big idea that I have is some of the pieces that I've been drawing will have just your regular prints that are on our regular printer back here that we do on archival and photo paper and stuff like that. But I want to do screen printed on our paper because I think that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
that we can do that.
Well, and that's another thing that we have talked about, I think, on the podcast multiple times as well, is reducing waste or trying to use up our own byproduct or waste from things that we make. So yeah, definitely like paper scraps and all that stuff. If we can take it, make paper, and then make prints on that paper, it just, like continues that chain.
Yeah. And it is, we are doing our part the best we can with what resources we have to try and lessen that impact that we have out there. But those are, I think, some of the things we've been working on in between all of this new journey and everything. Sleep, trying to get sleep. That's another one we're trying to work on.
That's a big one. That's important.
We got a new printer in the studio as well that I still haven't had the time to actually plug in and
even
use
test
yet.
Yeah,
but it will allow us to print on canvas, which I'm really stoked for. I did figure out a way to print on canvas on our other printer, but this is like roll canvas, and I could get bigger pieces and then maybe do some stretch canvas or stuff like that and do some custom pieces that way, which I don't know. I've loved dipping my hands in a lot of different like mediums and playing with like the pieces that I make digitally and then physically making them into something is pretty cool in a bunch of different ways that we have the capabilities to do that. Going forward with some of the things we've got planned, we might be cutting this short.
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, if she cooperates, we're trying to get this in between feeding and nap times and everything else.
Yep.
We are figuring these things out for you guys as well, trying to get our community to just be there and share and grow. And soon we'll be having the guests back in the studio and going forward with some of the projects we have with them as well. We have some big plans, but anyways, going forward with shows, it's going to be a learning process. We have one show scheduled in December. Other ways out there is online. Like Christy was saying, we're trying to get the online going with everything that way.
Working on the Etsy shop.
But I guess I wanted to talk about what we're doing future, but I mean, it's kind of up in the air with the next steps and see what as soon as we'll be. But I did want to talk about, we did end our show season. And so we had, what did we do last year? We did 4 shows last year, 5 shows last year.
I think so.
Something we were under.
It was like 1 a month in the summer plus Craft Lake City. Plus we did that extra.
So we had I think
it was like 4.
Yeah, so
maybe 5.
This year I think it
but
was
we did the holiday one. So
I think it was over 14. So we like more than doubled this year's show attendance and getting ourselves out there. What were some of the things as we closed down the season, getting ready for her to come into the world? What were some of the things that maybe we do differently, maybe we learn, maybe we can share with people on how we approach some of the stuff?
Yeah, I think for us it's more about maybe strategically picking which shows based on weather, based on location, based on now that we have this experience, we've been to a few of these shows, we can decide which ones we definitely want to go back to and when. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into doing in-person events. So I think it's something that we're going to keep experimenting with and figuring out what works best for us. But yeah, I think it's just going to be more about kind of, especially now that we have this little one, strategically kind of trying to decide which shows and be a little more, not, I don't want to say choosy, but
No, there will be. I think strategic is the right way to put it for this next year coming. We still plan to be out at shows.
Absolutely.
I don't want to give that up. I think shows are a great way just to interact with people. Even like I think I've mentioned this. Even if you guys don't buy anything when we're at a show, but you guys come in and talk and have a conversation, it goes miles to just know that there's people out there seeing what we're doing like that. And like it doesn't matter that like you don't have I have so many people that come into the booth and they're like, oh, I just don't have the extra right now, and I'm like, that's totally fine, man, you don't have to, but I just appreciate you coming in and enjoying what you're looking at and seeing and having a conversation. I think that's pretty cool. But I think one of the big things is we downsized cars from what we used to have, like storage space wise. So like that was kind of a like, okay, let's see how much we can fit in the car. But as we got later on in the show season, I realized like what was necessary to go with us. I don't know, our displays kind of changed every show.
I would say I feel like we do change our display, like, or our setup almost every show. But it's
minute things.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
towards the end, I think we kind of had dialed it in much more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of like figuring out like, okay, what's the minimum amount that we like need to have have a like cohesive, as cohesive as possible setup.
And that's very hard because we don't have a cohesive like we have
product
a very eclectic
line.
Product line.
Yeah. We sell a lot of different things. We like doing and making a lot of different things.
Do.
We've talked about this.
But I will say the best thing like for people trying to get in is don't buy expensive displays. Like none of our displays were very expensive except for our grid walls. Every show has used the grid walls. They have come in handy so much to have. We have 7-foot grid walls. How we pack them has changed every single show because sometimes I kept them together because they do split in half to fit into our vehicle a little easier. And then sometimes I like left them full length, put them on the roof rack, strapped them down to different things. But having the different displays, because what will happen is we'll go to a show and we'll be like, oh, this looked good. This didn't quite work. And like, oh, let's adjust it. And then I think we now have kind of a graveyard of display pieces that we might come back to at some point, but they're not being used. We went and bought off a Facebook Marketplace postcard rack.
Yeah, or like greeting card rack or something like that.
Greeting card rack or something. But it's great, but it's so big, and we didn't have enough 5x7 stuff to really fill up the rack.
Yeah, and it doesn't fit like on a table, so
it had its own
stand. It has to have its own like floor space.
Yeah. What I'm thinking of doing is next season is modifying it to fit on our grid walls next to all our print stuff so that it maybe is a little bit different display. But Facebook Marketplace, great place to find retail displays for cheap.
Yeah. Same with like the clothes rack. It was like something we thought we would need, and then it was like, well, now with the grid wall, we can get the ones that hang on the grid wall instead of having to have again dedicated floor space or booth space for an entire and clothing rack.
It's been great because we'll use the clothes racks here in the studio space and in the worker space. But that it's like, oh, we need to hang something real quick. It pops right up, and it makes sense for it to be in here. But those kind of things, and it's. We got very fortunate where we found deals, or we got them at thrift stores, or didn't spend too much on it, that it doesn't feel like a huge loss. But that is one of the things I would say, always evolve your display space, trying to figure out what makes sense. And what's funny is like I thought, oh, hey, stickers in this display would work really well. One day it did,
stickers
one day
have been
it didn't.
a sticking point for us.
Very funny.
Trying to figure out how to display stickers.
Figuring out a display.
Especially because we have so many.
We do. I think we're approaching 50. And
it's a lot of stickers.
It is a lot of stickers.
We like stickers.
And then I think I have another like 7 or 8 coming like after this past Inktober, like drawing that I'm like working on. I know the Toad Wizard is one of your favorite ones. I really like the bounce house that I drew was so simple, but I do really like the bounce house. I also, because I asked Christy out.
I say we have a special
there
connection.
Is a special connection to the bounce houses, but that one it's so simple, but I do love like that classic kids bounce house inflatable thing.
Yeah.
Bouncy castle. Yeah, whatever you guys call them, wherever you guys are watching this from. But there's a few things we've got lined up and excited for new pieces that are coming out. And just finding time to do all that stuff, but always evolving the displays for the shows. Do you think we'll ever lock us one down?
No. Well, mostly only because sometimes it changes depending on the show that we're at.
That's true.
So like it depends on the market, it depends on the theme or style of the market, it depends on the location, it depends on the setup that we're allowed. Because we definitely have a very pared down, like, oh, we can only have like a 6-foot table type setup, which is obviously going to be different than our 10 by 10 booth setup.
What would you say is the best approach to how we've like handled every single different show with the displays?
Well, like the day or two before the show, we come down here and we say, okay, what do we need? And we try and figure out what we're going to do. I would like to say we have more planning and forethought, but nope.
I think we have planning, and on some
we
of
do.
these.
And it's again like we did a lot of shows this summer, so I think by the end of the summer, it really was like the day before, maybe 2 days before the show, was like, okay, what do we need? Like, we kind of had an idea of how we wanted to set things up, and then and then again, it also changed because I was very pregnant by the end of, by our last market. So actually setting up at the shows was a lot of you obviously doing the heavy lifting because I couldn't. And then, me just kind of trying to do what I could.
Yeah, I will say, as we got into a couple shows, there was sometimes we had an end spot where then we had like the other side of the grid. And I realized, I think 3 or 4 shows in that, like, wait, we could be
like 2 or 3
putting stuff on the outside of our booth, and like people,
because we're at the end of a row.
Yeah, because like people walk by and they'll see it, and so
that was fantastic though, because it really did work. Like people walking down, like at the farmers market, over walking down the street, if we had an end booth and we had things on the outside of the booth, people would walk by and stop and see our art on the outside of the booth, and then kind of like come around the corner or come around the wall, our grid wall, and see what else we had. It was a great way to catch people's attention. I
will say, because we have an eclectic style of things that we sell, and if you have multiple pieces that are displayable, I think one of the huge things I could like throw a tip out there is put it in different locations. Like have multiples up, because what we noticed is like retail like psychology, like eye level pieces do catch, but everyone's eye level is slightly different. And there are some times where I would put a piece up high and it wouldn't get noticed, and but they notice it as they like walk past a different part, and it's at a different level in the booth. And so we have a sticker of something, we have a tote bag of the same design, we have a t-shirt, and we might have a print of it. And so by it being in multiple places at different levels for people, we noticed that someone go like, oh my god, that's so funny. And then
it's much more like likely to catch someone's eye.
Yeah, we made the comment, and it's like, oh, we also have a sticker. And then they're like, oh man, I'll buy the sticker.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
I don't necessarily want it on a shirt, but I could buy a sticker and put it on my water bottle.
Or they're like, oh, I don't know, I've got this idea for like, it'd be a great gift for a friend, but I don't know if they look. I'm like, well, we have a poster print of it. And they're like, oh, I'll take the poster, because
frame
like,
it and
I
give
didn't know
that
what
as a
shirt
gift.
size they were or something. So that is a huge like thing that I think I caught as we were doing more of these shows, is the different pieces in different locations in different line of sight.
And really don't be afraid to put one design that you have that you think is really good on multiple mediums. Yeah, like having like our science wizard, for example, on a shirt, a print, a tote bag, a sticker, gives people multiple opportunities to buy.
I mean, the thing,
if they like the design, then it's like, oh, okay, I don't want a shirt, I might want a tote bag or whatever.
I'll play with screen printing because we have the supplies here to do it. I might be like, oh, I think this looks really good as like a white on black, and then someone's like, oh, what if you did it? And then I'm like, why didn't I think of doing other colors? So then just a simple color change completely can change a whole look to something for somebody, and they'll be like, I totally want to wear it. So like, if it's feasible for you guys out there, have multiple colorways.
Yeah.
It's logical because you go into some stores, some retail places, and you go, oh, look, they have 3 different of the same design on 3 different shirts, and people will buy one of the styles because they don't like this way this shirt looks on them, but they do like the way that shirt looks.
Right.
It's trying to cover a wider array of stuff, and I know it's easier said than done for some people, and sometimes like the cost to do a run of things is higher for some, and I feel very fortunate that we have the ability to do a lot of that stuff here at smaller runs, so it keeps our costs down.
Yeah.
But that's a huge thing from show experience, having multiples of things in different places. And then the other thing too that I think did really well for us, which was kind of this surprise, is framed artwork.
Yeah. Yeah, I really didn't expect framed artwork to sell so well, but I guess once you think about it, it's like one less step for the consumer, right? They don't have to then go out and find a frame that fits and, frame it themselves and then put it up. It's already ready to like bring it home, hang it up on their wall, or whatever.
And
maybe.
Hot tip is thrift stores.
Oh yeah.
We find a bunch of new frames at thrift stores. Plastic is wrapped on them.
Brand new in packaging.
Yeah, in packaging, and no damage to them, no nothing. And we'll buy those for a couple bucks. And
usually they're around like $3 as opposed to the 20 plus they'll be in a store.
And so it's a huge savings for us. And what it also turns into is a huge savings for anyone buying our pieces is because then we go, oh, hey, our piece usually like we'll do prints for like $10 to $15, sometimes $20 depending on the size of the print. But then it's like, oh, you can get a finished one in a frame for $30. And that people's thought process is like, oh, it's already done. I can go hang it on my wall. It's much easier for them. And it really didn't cost us that much more.
And if you think about it, it's kind of saving them oftentimes, again, if they were going to go to the store and buy a brand new frame for this art print, they just spent $20 on another $20 a frame. It's $40.
Yeah.
We're saving everybody money. and we're buying things out of thrift stores, keeping it from going to landfills.
And so
it's just win-win-win for everybody.
It's circle all around on that. But framed art was one of those ones where like I like started with a couple prints because we have the capability to print our stuff, and then I started putting those prints in frames, and then I was like, oh, we need more frames. We need to go find
And really, I think you just did it in the beginning because it was like we had some extra frames and it was like, oh, this looks really good in a frame.
Yeah.
So let's have it kind of as a display, and if someone buys it, cool. But then we discovered that people liked buying framed art. Who knew?
We're like, oh, okay, cool.
Why that was surprised to us.
So like add that to your guys' list of things potentially.
Maybe have a couple
frame pieces. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Like that's we really only take like maybe 5 to 10 frames like at a show, and what's really surprising is almost half of them sell at every show because people were like, oh yeah, we'll take that one instead of the print. And I'm like, well, the print's cheaper. You can buy the print. And they're like, no, we'll buy the... I'm like,
no, I want the framed one.
Okay,
cool.
Thanks, appreciate it. But yeah, those are some of the things closing out this season that I think have been beneficial to learn and grow, and excited to see what happens next summer season. As it gets cold here, a lot of the shows start going indoors. The next show I'll be doing will be indoors, thankfully, because I think today was 35 degrees out there. So an outdoor farmer's market will be a little chilly. I know some of our friends that were at the Halloween one were getting heaters and trying to keep themselves warm.
That was the last outdoor one
were getting passed around, all kinds of stuff. Even us walking around with our jackets are like, ooh, it is chilly out here. I'm glad we're not out here with a pregnant wife for 6 hours
9 months
trying to sell our goods and everything. But during the summer, we did buy a fan. That was a nice thing to have around as well. So
plan for weather accordingly.
I mean,
look at the forecast, do what you can.
We had Woolly Mountains on here, and she talked about layers and proper layering.
Yeah, so you can put layers on, pull layers off, depending on the weather.
That's a great thing because
especially the mountains when it's a little more unpredictable.
Be comfortable. Like if you're comfortable, it's much easier to like tolerate people.
Yeah, or to
And-
be engaged in, you know,
And so I know
in the
there's a
present,
couple
not distracted by
couple
your
shows I had a
discomfort.
couple migraines going for the start, and it did make it a little bit hard to kind of want to be there, but also like had to be there kind of situation just to get through the day. And so yeah, I think you kept the conversations going a lot longer for some
Well,
of
and
those
I
people.
always tell you can take a break, go in the car, just like you tell me, and
Yeah,
same
yeah.
thing, but you don't do it.
But
Someone's stubborn.
anyways, those are some of the tips and stuff that we've experienced. Oh, we might be coming to
You
an
wanna
end
put your
on
2
this one
cents
here
in?
for you guys. But anything else from kind of catching up with all the guests we've had, all this past season as we go forward? Anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap this one up?
Oh, I just want to say I think we had so many great conversations with each of our guests. Like, everyone was different. Everyone had their own slightly unique perspective. Everyone had their own little like thing that they do, the thing that was theirs. But it was so fun to see the common thread of
Passion.
everyone, yeah, just enjoying what they're doing, right? Like, a lot of times, obviously, we don't start these businesses because we think we're going to get rich. We do it because we want something enjoyable, something that brings us joy that we can do that will hopefully make us some money. But yeah, I mean, just hearing everybody's perspectives on,
For some people being just their side thing that they do on the weekends, that they kind of get to express their creativity. For some people it is their livelihood, and
Yeah.
it was a hard decision to make that leap, but they are putting in the time, putting in the effort. I'm Trash Pile is one of those ones that I love hearing her story, because like she's in an apartment doing everything, and she is doing a lot.
Yeah.
And like seeing her stories, following her social media, and kind of just going through like the effort she goes through to put together some really cool wearable art pieces
Yeah.
with her tie-dye.
I think
It's cool.
similar story for Camberland too, for Cam from Camberland. I mean, what's really interesting is, so he was our first guest, actually our very first guest. And he had just been starting to do some like bigger art pieces. And he said he wanted to get into more art commissions and things like that. And now fast forward, I don't know how many months, and he is selling these like commissioned coffee cup tables for like over $1,000.
Yeah.
And getting commissions and getting recognized for these cool pieces that he's making, which is so awesome that like that's the direction you wanted to go, and that's where he's starting to be able to take his business as well. So that's exciting.
Everybody we've had on the show is great, and we have now made, I would say, lifetime friends with everybody that's been on the show. We are continuing to make new friends, and if you guys are in the local Salt Lake area and you have artist people that inspire you, makers that you guys know, send them our way. Like we want to have the conversation. If they're at shows, come by, say hi. And I mean, can't promise anything, but it's one of those, we just want to talk. We just want to have a conversation with everybody. And going forward with that is again, I think the thread that like I've come to realize with all this is building the art community, building our local, and eventually it could be national, and it could be global of an art community, because it is the thing that inspires us is other artists. Like I think we've said it plenty of times on the show, the walls there'll eventually be a day where you guys can see, we've had some social media of our walls, but like
we definitely still need to do a tour of down here.
We have more frames, pieces going up. We've purchased more stuff since we've started all this, and that's what inspires us as other artists to keep creating. So we just want to have those conversations with them and hear their story, hear their passion, what drives them, how they got started, all of that stuff that way. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's it for this one. A little shorter than usual for you guys. We do have new responsibility that's gonna take some time away from us, but we are not going anywhere. We are still going to continue having these conversations, having people talk about their passions, and we want to hear from you guys. Comment down below, like, subscribe, do all the things. Everybody who has been watching and listening, and we're seeing it, we're loving it. It's great, it's been awesome, and we don't plan to stop. So stay tuned. We'll be coming back with another episode very soon. And more guests are lined up, and we will be having some great conversations with other fellow artists as we go forward. But guys, thanks again for watching.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.